Good morning, Bears fans. We're in it now. We're getting back in the football season. We ended the World Cup today. U.S. women lost in a shootout, and now it's all football. Well, I mean, I guess we got some baseball, and as Mike, you'll see later is wearing the Cubs gear. All right, Cubs are doing well, but it's
Oh,
getting to
boy.
be football time. We're into camp. It's time to get going. So with us today, we got Woody.
Yo.
There he is. We got Dan, and we'll bring Mike on in a second. He's doing some typing there. And then while he's doing that, though, hey, you can win some signed Chicago Bears merchandise. All you got to do is go to the Mike the Bear fan page, give us a like, give us a follow, and you can win yourself some signed merch, which actually we'll be giving some away today. So now that we got some merch we're gonna give. We're gonna talk a lot of Bears football today. We're gonna talk about some contract extensions, some signings. One extension, a couple signings, and then what we've seen so far in camp. It's been a pretty good camp. And some other little things that have popped up. So we'll just jump right into it, and we'll talk Cole Kmet here. Cole Kmet just signed an extension. We all kind of knew this was coming, right? We kind of saw the writing on the wall starting right around the draft. So 4 years, $50 million, 32.8 guaranteed. Not bad for the Arlington Heights native. What do you think about the extension? So with the extension of Kmet,
I agree with it. I like it. Last year he kind of stood out more because he led, receiver yards. A lot of people are saying that's a little too much for a tight end, especially him. But hopefully this puts a fire under his ass and helps us out this year because, like I said, the tight ends I think are my dark horse for the red zone this year. So hopefully Kmet, I'd like to see him have like some more touchdowns, a little bit more yards, and better blocking for our run game with our new running back. So I'm pretty happy about it.
Dan, how about you?
I'm happy about it. I like Kmet. Hopefully, this is what he said. Hopefully, does good. And
then we got. Oh, sorry. Okay, and then we got our producer extraordinaire, Mike the Bear fan. Mike, what are you thinking about this extension?
Well, I definitely liked it. Like Woody said, other people thought it was a little pricey. I thought it was a little pricey, especially when we don't look at the tight end as much as other teams. He did get paid 9th overall, which months ago I said if we did get an extension, he'd be in the top 10, which he did. I really don't see him going too much. It's more of a blocking tight end. I believe that we use him more than anything. I would like to see him get more yardage and attempts, but after getting getting more, it's going to be tough for him to get the rock, especially when we get a number one receiver.
I think when you look at the end of last season, he was the only guy that Fields really connected with on the field. So that built. And now because we have the receiving core we have, I think that actually means a lot more opportunities for Kmet to get the ball because, they're going to be paying more attention to wide receivers than they were before. So, I mean, I think that offense will open up a bit, which will create more for not just Kmet, but Tunyon as well. I mean, he's been a phenomenal blocker. I think, when we drafted him was second round when we got him. I think he's been worth the money. He's been solid. He's been there. He does what you need him to do. I think it was an overall great extension. We all kind of knew it was going to happen, though. I mean, now the next guy who needs an extension from that draft class is actually Claypool. Well, I'm sure we'll talk about him in a bit, but he's the next up for an extension of the guys who are getting close to contracts. But speaking of contracts, I'll just go straight to you, Mike, on this one because you've been preaching this for, since before the draft. You wanted Yannick. Well, guess what, Bears fans and Mike, who was a happy man. He was doing a little dance in the driveway. Bill, the Packer fans, is threatening to release the video. 1 year, 10.5, kind of the money we thought, maybe not the length we thought. 10 of it's guaranteed, almost all of it's guaranteed. He'll be in practice as of Tuesday. He's at home right now. getting his affairs back in order. But Mike, let's just go straight to you on this one. Yeah,
I've been saying it for months and months. We need an edge rusher. Or we're lacking edge rusher 100%. And with the Yannick move, that helps the edge rush. Yeah, he lacks a little bit in run defense or whatnot, but we don't get him from the run interiors for. But I think with the group that we have, it's good. And if you rewind back months ago, I said he wanted 14, 15, 16 million dollars, which that was too much. And I thought he was going to get a multi-year deal, 3-year, roughly $10 million. That was the only thing I was correct out of anything in the offseason. So, of course, I'm definitely stoked about it, and it helps out that defense. So that just puts another piece in.
Dan, I know you got to be happy.
I'm happy. Finally got that edge rusher that we've been needing in that. So we'll see.
I mean, what to me, this was just kind of like, I kind of think we all kind of knew this was going to happen, or at least we thought it was, with as much as Mike's been talking about it, right? But it made, but the longer it went on, the more it made sense. I mean, what do you think though of it just being a 1-year deal? Do you think this is more of a prove it deal, or hey, we just need you for a year and you're gone?
Yeah, like I said, well, Mike got lucky. He picked this because even though I picked the one guy in the draft, right round, right pick. Anyway, I'm a little bit excited, but I am a little bit worried about the 1 year only because this is going to be a 2-year process for Chicago. This year, I did pick them not to get in the playoffs with a 7-10 record. So hopefully he balls out and maybe he gets like maybe another year, maybe another 2 years. I'm a little bit excited about the pick, but hopefully all these teams know, that he's not a good, run stopper. So if it's like a 3rd and 6, 3rd and 10, they're just going to run right at him. So hopefully some of these other linemen or linebackers can help him out with that. But I still think we need another edge rusher to help stop the run. But it's better than what we have now on the defensive line. That's what I'm happy about. But see what happens.
I think it was a good move, but if you rewind back and see all the defending players that we paid multiple years and they only had a 1 good year. We have the money. We're going to have the money next year, roughly $100 million again, maybe a little under, but I think it's a good move. They're not going to rush it. We're not going to be like, we're going to pay you this big contract. You know what I mean? He has been team to team, but he's been playing well for each team. I think his less sack year was 5, but he averages 8 sacks a year.
I think though the one thing about that surprised me about the deal is that it was a 1-year deal, because if you read what Yannick was saying during free agency, he wanted a home. He's tired of moving. And so it's kind of seems strange that he was signing a 1-year deal for a guy who wants to find that permanent home. Well, then why not? But on the same token, he's about 2 years older than what Poles has been signed to 3- and 4-year deals. However, I don't think he signs with the Bears for this contract unless there's, all right, well, hey, if things work, we'll talk 2 or 3 year next year. So that discussion had to have been had, or Yannick probably doesn't sign. So I like the signing overall. I mean, obviously it helps.
Well, the thing I was thinking about too is that he was interviewed with Chicago before, and all these other teams. Now, did all those other teams didn't want him, or they gave him a too low of a money guaranteed or whatever, and then he just picked Chicago because no other team wanted him?
No, he picked Chicago because it was meant to be. He's got a bear on his hand, tattoo. He said it himself. It was meant to be. Because
you picked him, that's why. But I think this signing has something to do. Just happens to do with Justin Fields, because if he balls out this year, Justin Fields, and he has a good year, 3,000 yards, blah blah blah. Do we pick that quarterback first pick next year in the first round, or do we go after? I believe I've been watching this JT guy out of Ohio State, an edge rusher as well. So I think his extension has something to do with how good Fields does and where we pick next year and who we pick.
I mean, I can see some truth to that. I think Fields has 2 years, 2 years realistically, to prove himself as the future franchise. But I mean, and we'll get into. I guess we'll get into training camp here a little bit. Well, we will, and we'll talk. We can talk about some then. But I mean, the early indications, though, I think the Yannick signing is also an indication of what Poles will see in that camp and what he liked and didn't like. And I don't think he spends the money on Yannick if he doesn't think the team's improved enough where he's going to make them a playoff team. And look, I don't think Poles is trying to jump a year or two in the process, but he's saying, look, if we're, like I've been saying, we're a dark horse playoff team, right? And if let's say Poles is sitting there going, we're on that fringe of being a playoff team this year. Well, and if he goes, well, if I go get Yannick for the year, and now we get in, and once you get in, all bets are off, right? I mean, any given Sunday happens. So I think Yannick is kind of like one of those things, like, okay, we're a fringe playoff team. Maybe he gets us into the door, and if we get in the door, then we'll see what happens.
Plus, I hope this Yannick signing puts some fire in Gibson's ass too.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's good to have one on each side, and hopefully, that guy on the other side, everybody's craving about him. I'm going to play my ass off this year too and see what happens.
Yeah, but I believe Gibson went from a starter to a backup because I believe Walker will be the other guy on the other side. That's my opinion. We'll see, but he's definitely battling for a starting spot for sure.
Well, and like Gibson, who we had hopes for before, and now last year there was no one else getting double teamed, so it was a lot harder. Now we get to see how he acts when he's got a premier edge rusher or a good edge rusher. I won't say premier yet, maybe.
Because I think Gibson played really well when Quinn was on the other side because he was getting doubled and stuff like that. So, like I said, it would put a fire under Gibson's ass and see. Hopefully, he sees some action and be like, you know what, I need to pick it up, or I'm going to be a backup.
Well, we are going to see that in 5 weeks when we get the some little team from Green Bay, that little town team of Green Bay, because that's not a city, Green Bay, right? It's a town. 35 days away, we get some Bears football. Everyone knows who number 35 was right there,
Neil
right?
Anderson, my boy.
Thank you, sir. Yes, Neil Anderson. 35 days, that little scrubby team from Green Bay comes into town, and we kick off the NFL season. I mean, how Green Bay has a team, look, if they're not even a real city, I think Louisville's bigger, and they don't have a franchise, so whatever. 35 days, though, we get the Packers. Football will start, and I can't wait, and I think we'll see some of that. And as we prep into that, now we look at the training camp and what's going on. And really, we're still looking at the players to watch right here. We have the rookies, right? Stevenson, Roshan, Big Gerb, as they're calling him now, or Big Dex, and Zach Pickens. I mean, it's still, we're looking, have the rookies up, but actually as camps have been going on, I think there's been a lot of players to look at. I mean, Dan, I know you've been following some. What's been your take on camp so far?
Actually, I haven't been able to keep up that much with it, but from what I have seen, Justin's doing all right, doing pretty good. Yeah, seen some of the offense is looking good. I've seen some of the video of that, and I've seen some of the defense. I just can't wait to get them out on the field against, not playing each other, but playing against another team. Like, was it this Saturday coming up? You got the Titans and that, so.
Yeah, and Woody, speaking of the game on Saturday, which that game will be live on NFL Network. It's one of their live coverage games. I mean, do you think how much of these guys that we're watching, like Stevenson and Gerv and, and Roshan, do you think we'll actually see? Do you think we'll even see them at all? Or is it just going to be a bunch of guys trying to make a roster?
Yeah, I think they're gonna be playing a couple series. I'm thinking. I mean, obviously Fields and Moore. They've been in the league and stuff like that. But I've been watching training camp a lot, and Stevenson's turning heads. I mean, even Brisker, Gordon, And they're saying Claypool is probably one of the best, receivers next to Moore that's having a great training camp. So I'm thinking we're going to see these rookies at least, 2-3 series, and hopefully they ball out, because this is where, they have to be seen in these preseason games to get these starting jobs.
Yeah, Mike, I mean, we see this every year, right? We hear about, they're having a great camp, and we don't see them much in the preseason. I've always hated that, because in week 1 feels like it's week 1 and 2 still feel like preseason. Do you think Eberflus and Poles are going to get these guys more game time, and from what you've seen in camp?
I personally don't think so, just for the fact injuries can happen at any time. A lot of people go down and without pads. What happens when they do pads? We know who made the roster. I believe preseason is more for who's making the squad, who's on depth 2-3, who's possibly getting cut. You know what I'm saying? That's what I think. And I like Claypool. Claypool's actually turning some heads, like Woody said. He needs to get his head together, because that altercation he had with, Eddie Jackson, that shouldn't happen, your teammates. But at the same time, like, it's training camp. You're not supposed to have the big hit. And it's your teammate. Like, cool it a little bit. It's your teammate. And
yeah,
I like the I like the Dexter. He's kind of been turning heads. I think he's going to be a good rotational defensive in the middle. I think he's going to have a decent year for a rookie. And Tyler Scott, I think he's going to get a couple reps. And when he's in there with his speeds, it could be good.
Yeah, my big problem with preseason, the way we do it these days, is, yeah, you're right. Injuries can happen at any time. And they end seasons in week 1 and 2 because they don't get enough reps in preseason. That's my take.
Sometimes.
And I'm just like, I'd like to see a little bit more. And I agree, Woody. We'll probably see him typically a series. Like, we'll see Justin and those guys for maybe the first series. If it's a 4 and out, they might get a second series, right? And then that's about it. On the defense, we'll see about the same with the starters for the most part. And that's about it for next Saturday. I'd like to see I think the rookies should get a little bit more, because they are rookies. And you know what? With Claypool, I've been following camp a little bit more this year, because I've been more interested in see what people are saying about, like, Claypool. And I don't mind the Claypool Jackson thing, because they're competing, and that shows just how competitive camp has been, or is right now, because they are competing hard. And I like to see that, even with 2 veterans we know are going to make the roster, that we know they're going to get playing time, but to see them going at it hard, for me, it's kind of a good thing, because they're not going to get the reps in the games, And when I look at Stevenson, I don't want to compare him yet, but I will. He kind of reminds me of Sean Taylor in a lot of ways. The way he plays, the way he hits, his speed, the way he moves is very reminiscent of Sean Taylor. It doesn't hurt that they both went to the U. They're both throwing the Miami U up. So very much like a Sean Taylor, and I hope he does well. And then so now we go into the charts, and really the defensive chart, doesn't change much. This is the way Mike has it, and he has Jones there instead. And we'll see how that plays out, because I think now
this isn't me. This is ESPN's
or ESPN. Yeah. So I mean, but this is one way it could be Gibson instead of Jones. Obviously Yannick changes things. Really, here in the second tier that doesn't change, but I like
Jones is more of an interior guy, and Gibson is more of a defensive edge. So for him to be in the Jones, I don't really see that personally, but
I could see Jones and Billings
on the DN.
Well, I could see Gibson on the edge, like Gibson and Yannick with either Billings or Jones in the middle. I'm telling you, I'm liking this defense. Looking at it on paper, it looks great. On paper, it looks. I have no complaints with it. It's better. It's improved. Could it still get better? Well, yeah, it can always get better, right?
Right, and like you said, for the defense, I believe the Bears' secondary could possibly be the best in the NFL.
Ooh. You know what though, Mike? There you can make a case though, because look at, Brisker and Gordon for rookies last year. That's where I wish we had the stat master on, but we know Brisker was in the defensive rookie of the year conversation. Gordon played so good, we kicked Vildor to the unemployment line.
Thank God.
I mean, so I can
Right.
see, and Stevenson is displacing people already. I mean, he's I don't want to say he was a steal of the draft because I don't think he was our steal of the draft, but definitely we got huge value when we drafted him. Yeah, I mean, you can make that argument, and with an improved linebacking core and now front line, there I mean, look, I think the back end is what kept us in games last year.
And I think Jalen Johnson better ball out, and I think he is going to ball out this year to get that extension because there are talks about him not getting extended. So
Right.
I think he's gonna ball. And I like to bring this up too. Is like when you brought the defensive line and stuff like that, the whole defensive, people up, and people are like, we might see this guy here, we might see this guy. I like to hear that because that means we have depth, and that is key to have depth on these teams, so we can stay in the games and keep that lead and stuff like that with these defenses we have.
Well, we definitely have rotational players for sure. Like I said weeks ago, like we need that defensive edge that we got from Yannick. Hopefully one more, because I mean we do have a little more money in the bank. Just the question is, what are they going to do?
Yeah, and the thing is too, when you look at the depth chart, let me bring it back up again. I mean, look at Gordon's not even there.
Gordon would probably be the nickel playing the slot.
Yeah, Gordon's. Yeah.
I mean, look, if you're Jackson or Johnson, you got to be a little bit worried about your career though, because Gordon isn't going to be, he's going to be an every down player soon enough. He should already be. He was that last year. So that's just how deep this secondary is. So I mean, I kind of before the show I was like, oh, it might be too early to ask this question, but then again, maybe not, because just proving in the depth when you got a guy who was a starter last year, an every down guy who's now a nickel package guy, that says you're deep and you can really you're doing some damage, and it can give us some different looks, because I really think Stevenson's a guy that they'll bring up. Like Sanborn might go out of play and they'll move Stevenson up and put Gordon where Stevenson is and do some different looks. This defense, I think, could have a lot of just really unique looks with the players we got back. Our DBs, DBCB safety area, we can really do some different things for sure.
Well, Stevenson came in, and I was surprised to see it on the depth chart myself. But last year with Gordon playing inside and outside, he played good on the inside. So, I mean, I don't mistake it for moving him to the nickel to move him to the inside if it betters the team. You know what I mean? Like I said, Gordon had a good year last year, especially a rookie, for playing inside and outside. He made his mistakes, but what rookie doesn't?
Yeah. No,
I think we got to have some definitely more fucking sacks than we had last year. Last in sacks. It just with when we grew up, we're thinking defense wins championships. Are we used to ever seeing Bears last in sacks?
Well, the way Stevenson plays, he's going to be like the next Mike Brown.
Well, you can even say with Stevenson, you can compare him to a guy who just went in the Hall of Fame this weekend, Rondé Barber. The way, he might be one of those guys who's like a 20-20 guy, 20 sacks and 20 interceptions. I mean, he's got the potential. He has the potential. We'll see, what he ends up being. But I mean, there's a lot of guys you can compare him to for different things. Like you can compare him to a Rondé Barber. You can compare him to a Sean Taylor. And really, he's the first guy I've heard even compared to Sean Taylor since Sean Taylor. So, that's some high praise I've seen where people have kind of started make those comparisons. So I mean, we could have the best backfield in the NFL. It could be lockdown. And then when we shift to the offense, you look at this offense now, if we stay healthy, and look at the running back position is going to be, I don't think Herbert's going to be the starter. I know ESPN, whatever. I think it's going to be Roshan. But look at this, looks really, really good. I don't have a problem with any of this. And now with the depth we got at tight end, the depth we got at wide receiver, the depth we got at running back, the only thing that concerns me is the depth of the line. is line depth. That's the only thing that really concerns me. Where are you at with the offense?
You want to put that up again?
Yeah, I'll put it up for you. Hold on. I just lost it. There it is.
Well, you know how I feel about Herbert. I know they picked up Devontae Foreman, and of course, Roschon. It does depend on Herbert blocking. They're saying that, Roschon's a better blocker than Herbert, but like I said before, let him play in a regular NFL game, then I can compare. You were right about the line. One person gets hurt, we're going to be like last year, moving people around again, and you know how that would happen there. If we keep Cody Whitehair, at center, Nate Davis, and it depends on Jenkins, injury and stuff like that, and Darnell Wright, if they work out. The main key is that they have to play the same position instead of hopping all around, and we could have a good year on the line. And the wide receivers, it just says for themselves. I mean, Claypool's having a standout year at training camp so far, so we'll see how he rolls. I did watch, when I was watching training camp, they had the red zone matchups and stuff. And I guess the first red zone, they went 3 and out. And the second red zone, they Fields threw a touchdown to Moore. So I like to see some more wide receivers get involved in training camp and not just hearing Moore's name catching these balls.
Yeah, Mike, I think, offensively, I think there's sufficient depth at running back, tight end, and wide receiver. I don't know. I have a warm fuzzy with the starters, but
I personally like the running back room. Literally anybody can start. Like just last week, they had the Carolina. He was starting. Now, Herbert starting. Now what? Next week, Roschon? You know what I mean? Because obviously Herbert's lacking in blocking. That's, and we're a run team. Especially if you do like a pass or something, he can't break it up. You know what I mean? If he makes a mistake, Fields is going down. So obviously you got to have the better blocker in there, depending on the play call. I personally, like you said, I like the offensive line, but Jenkins needs to stay healthy. Our offensive line does, but him directly, I feel like he's more on the hot seat because he's been hurt since we drafted him. He has not been staying 100% healthy, and he needs to.
Yeah, I think with the running back, I think it's going to be Roschon because Herbert, while I love Herbert, and don't get me wrong, but Herbert to me is still, he needs that guy who's going to beat the lineup a little bit, that bruiser. He's more of a finesse guy, not a hitting guy, a hitter. And he needs someone to soften the line. And then, because if you look when he started last year when Monty was hurt, he didn't have a great game. His yards per carry was pretty low. But then when he'd get in games where Monty would, they were switching series, he did much, much better. He's not I don't think he's if he's becoming an every down guy, cool. And we'll see, gotta give him the chance. But I don't know. I really love Herbert, but I don't think he's like your every down guy. I think, like most of the NFL, we're going by committee. And I think Roschon, for me, Roschon's the first guy because he's just a bruiser. He's a big guy. He put up huge numbers in Texas behind, Bijan, which the fact that he still got in with Bijan being there and put up the numbers he did, he would have started anywhere else in college football last year. But he got stuck behind Bijan Robinson of all people, right? So, I mean, I don't know. I think, but the depth, I love the depth. It's just, the O-line is what I worry about. And I agree with Woody. Like, I don't want to see people moving around. Like, I don't want Nate Davis to get hurt. And then, okay, we're going to put Patrick at center and move Whitehair back, over to right guard. Like, no. I think, even if there's an injury, I wouldn't move Whitehair. I'd leave him and make Patrick go to right guard. You know what I'm saying? If that were the case. Like, leave the starters where they are with injury and then shift the rotational guys around.
Yep.
Well, in training camp, Nate Davis was hurt, so Lucas Patrick took his place. And the thing about like I said about Herbert, about not the every down back, you got to think Monty was the running back that had the most, broken tackles last year. He was the most running back that was hit behind the line of scrimmage.
Yeah.
So if we have a gelling offensive line, I'm thinking Herbert's numbers, he may go up. But
I agree. Yeah, I agree with you there. What and look at what else is going to make his numbers go up? The passing game, right?
Yeah.
I mean, if and like I said last year, and a lot of people, the Claypool trade was terrible. He was bad last year, and even last year I said this trade was not about this season, right? It's about next year, and now we're starting to see it at camp. And if Claypool's what we thought he was, or Poles thought he was when he made the deal, still better than any receiver drafted in the draft this year, is basically what Poles was thinking. If that's the case, and you've got now Moore and Claypool, and we know Mooney can beat you, right? We know he can, and we know Fields is confident with him. This passing game is going to make the run game just open up. And we already had, I didn't see LaDainian Tomlinson's thing this morning. I missed it, but he was going to list his top 5 running games. I would have been shocked if the Bears weren't in it, because I'm sure most people think the Bears are still going to be a top 5 running team because of Fields. But I think that's the misnomer. I think they'll be a top 5 running team because of the wide receiving core and that running back room. This offense at the skill position set, I think we can go up against any team in the NFL. It just comes down to the offensive line.
And I think the other thing, too, I was saying is that I think 37% of Justin Fields' sacks were out of the pocket. So what I'm saying is that if Justin Fields is on the run and he doesn't have no one to throw to and nowhere to run, you got to throw that ball out of bounds and do not take that sack. Stay in field goal range. Field goals are points, very crucial. So, but the other thing is that I'm excited to see Justin Fields throw out of the pocket, because they do have DJ Moore, and that guy can get open in a hurry. So,
well, I think all 3 of them can now.
Right.
It's kind of like, Moore can get open. Well, now they're going to have to shift more and more. Well, now that leaves Claypool. It leaves Mooney. It leaves Kmet. It leaves Tunyon. It leaves, one of the running backs coming out of the backfield. I mean, I think that's what I'm saying. Because of the wide receiving core we have right now, it opens everything up. And 55 times he was sacked last year, right? It was Justin Fields, 55 times. But a couple of those, Woody and Mike, you and I watched every game together. A couple of those sacks were like he would have Pettit, but wouldn't throw at the Pettit because he didn't have confidence in Pettit. Or you would have St. Brown, but he didn't have confidence in St. Brown at the time. So he went through. So some of those sacks he took last year were because he didn't feel comfortable to thread the needle or to put up a 75-30 ball or 75-25 ball, because he didn't have the confidence in the receiving core. I think that's completely changed this year, because, you see camp where they're talking about how he's threading the needle on balls to Claypool, on balls to Moore, on balls to Mooney. I think that's a huge piece. So I would be surprised if he gets sacked 30 times this year. With all of
now, with that RPO rule is out the door now. You can't do that. So I'm saying that, Getsky, I'm hoping that he has more design runs for Justin Fields this year, not just him running for his life to get those 1,000 yards.
I would assume so, Mike. Wouldn't you? I mean, you almost have to. You almost have to now, because you have to keep the defenses, honest with it, right? If we don't do designed run plays for Fields, then they're just going to stack the box because he's not going to run. But if we keep them honest, they're going to have to just keep, because it's like Lamar Jackson's not going to run at all, or like any of these other quarterbacks that are mobile, or you have, if you don't make them account for it, then it's going to hurt your pass game. You're muted, Mike. Mike, unmute yourself.
I wouldn't say make more run design plays. He had plenty. I think there's still going to be run design plays for Fields, but that reflects more on the offensive line connection, like you said, with the receivers. It was definitely the connection, which is a lot better this year, they're saying. Plus, we upgraded the offensive line. So if he feels comfortable in the pocket, he ain't going to take 3 steps and be like, I got to run. You know what I mean? If he feels comfortable, if the offensive line can stay healthy, I believe it's going to be, like I said, a top 15 offensive line.
And I
injury away could damage it for sure. You know what I mean? But I think they could stay healthy.
And I think Fields has the receivers that he could trust.
Yeah.
To bail him out, like he said about Pettis and St. Brown, he wasn't too trustworthy of him. His eyes were popping when they got DJ Moore and with Claypool gelling in training camp and Mooney healthy. So that if I'm a quarterback, I'm really excited and happy that these guys are chipping in.
The one thing though I wish we'd hear more of, because I mean obviously we're hearing about Claypool and Moore, they're the shiny new toys, so to speak, right? I wish we would hear more about Pettis, St. Brown, the other guys in that wide receiving room, because obviously, we're going to need St. Brown at some point. We're going to need Pettis at some point. Because
Pettis is on the pup list. Pettis is on the pup list.
Pup, yeah, he's on the pup. But St. Brown, I like to hear more of the other guys in the wide receiving room. I want to hear more about them, working with Fields and I would love to hear, he threaded the needle to St. Brown, because St. Brown, I think he could be just as good as his brother. He's got the same skill set. He's got the build. He's got, he could be another one of those diamonds in the rough. I just wish we'd see more of it. But here's the thing. Now this is minus about $1 million from what we spent yesterday. So let's say we got about 15, 16 million left for the season. So, where do we spend it? Do we go an edge rusher? Do we go after Van Noy or Clowney or Houston? Or, Woody, do we go, you know what? There is an O-line guy out there. Let's sign another good O-line guy. Maybe even if it's just a rotational guy. But do we sign O-line, or do you go after one of these guys?
I would go after another run stopper, edge rusher. I like Houston, and like I was saying, I was totally against this from the beginning, but we do have the draft capital. I know he's injury prone. Chase Young is out there still, and I know his reputation and stuff like that being injured, but Yannick too. He's going on his fourth team. He's 28 years old. But you never know. Chase Young could have if he's healthy, our defense, you got to think it's going to be one of the best in the, NFC, maybe the league, if we get Chase Young and he's healthy. Him stopping the run, rushing the quarterback. And then you got Yannick. I mean, I still think we need a run stopper. See how our offensive line gels now with the players we picked up and Darnell Wright that we drafted. But that's my answer is I think we have to go out and get an edge rusher to help stop the run.
So Mike, where are you at with the money? Who do you think we're going?
I mean, I like the Young move. I just personally don't think he's going to trade away his draft capital to get him, because he's constantly saying, I want to build through the draft. And why would you trade draft picks when that's what you're trying to do? I would like it. That's just my take on it. And another thing, he's got to pass the physical first. You know what I mean? Yeah. That's another question. Healthy, good for sure. I personally would rather have Houston.
Yep.
I mean, on the defensive edge from the start of free agency, him and Yannick was in the top two, I thought. I mean, there's a couple other players. Obviously, he's not in free agents anymore. I'd like to see the Houston thing, but what are they going to throw at him? A 1-year deal? 2-year deal?
Because how old is Houston?
Could find out.
Let me see.
Yeah, I mean, that's the other thing too, is while they're looking up his age, I mean, we got, Poles doesn't want to sign anyone over the age of 26, it seems.
30. Whoa.
Yeah, so I mean, that's why I think Houston and Clowney, I automatically discarded, because unless we were in win the Super Bowl now mode, I don't think Poles spends any kind of money on them. And the Young scenario, I'm not sure what he's owed this year, but obviously if there's a trade and let's say a roster player goes in that trade, I think he's Young is still on a rookie deal, so it's not going to be 15 mil. So we can afford it financially speaking, but Is he going to give up one of the 2 first-round draft picks? I don't think he would for Chase Young.
No, Chase's, they're wanting a second. I think if we give him a third, they might do it because he's only got 1 more year on his deal, a rookie deal. Other than that,
here's the other question though. Like I said, all this, and I'll abide by it. This all depends on how Justin Fields plays this year. I mean, like I said, if he sucks and shits the bed with this offense, do we go out and get a Caleb Williams or we get out a May or a Bo Nix next year in the draft for another quarterback? Or if Fields gels with this team and throws 3,500 yards, do we just take because it's a 2-year process? Do we take the team as we have it now and go pick up that JT from Ohio State, the edge rusher, next year at number 1? It all depends on how Fields plays, and that's how I think.
Well, and here's the thing. I think that Yannick changes the picture for us a little bit, right? I still think we're a dark horse playoff team, but if you make a Young trade, let's say you make the trade for Young, you give him a second and a third or whatever, and yes, Mike, this is a meeting of the minds. That's why you're not here. Only those with minds are here.
Come on, Mike. This is open mic. Get on here.
Yeah. But if you make a Young deal, now are you jumping a year? Kind of like how let's look at, if you remember back to the 18 season, I said we were a year ahead schedule on 18, right? But are we jumping the schedule if we make the Young deal this year? Are you jumping? Because look now, if you got, let's say you got Young, Yannick, I mean, now you're looking with that defense, with the rest of that defense, and with the offensive weapons, right? Now you're a legit probably threat to go to win a playoff game. The only question we would probably still have, and most detractors like the Detroit Villain Squad folks, like Main Event Mike would have, like, yeah, but guys, your offensive line, one guy goes down, you're toast, and you probably wouldn't be wrong.
Mm-mm.
So I'd almost want to be careful not to jump the line, a year and not have enough depth on the O line where, like, if Tevin Jenkins goes down, I feel comfortable with his backup. And right now I don't think any of us do. So that's the other reason why I don't think we do the Young trade, because if this were year 2 of 2, I think the Young trade would be much more a viable option. But I don't think Poles feels that pressure. He just like, look, if we win 10 games and make the playoffs, if we win 9 games and miss the playoffs, or 8 games and miss the playoffs, Bears fans in general will be happy.
Well,
and then I can go with 2 first-round draft picks next year, beef up the O-line and the defense even more. And if I keep all my offensive weapons in place, which it looks like he can do,
well,
we've got something.
I'm thinking about this too. I compare us to Green Bay right now. Say if we do great this year and we get in the playoffs, like in a wild card, and we at least get there and stuff like that, with all the money we have next year, and we're doing good and we get the playoffs this year, look out for us next year as well. Same as Green Bay with the money they got. So I'm looking at both ways here. Is it, like I said, it is a 2-year process, but if we do good this year, get into the playoffs, and we have all this money next year, we're a threat next year. I'm telling you.
So let's make it. Okay, we had about 100 now after the Kmet. We probably somewhere around 90-ish, right? Claypool is probably gonna get. Let's say he has a good year, right? Let's say if we take what's happened in camp, let's say okay, he's gonna get what 12 to 15 maybe. Mm-hmm. So that takes us down, to 75-ish. Let's say Yannick is good. We can get him for another 12. Now we're down in the 6. We're in the 60s. I mean, now okay, we're going to be a 5th-year option for Fields if he has a good year. So okay, knock off another $30 million there, at least. Now you're down to 25-30 million in cap space. After just re-signing some guys that you need to re-sign from this roster, and then we still got Jalen, and some other guys. So I mean, we've got a lot of money, but when you look at who we might have to re-sign, we really don't have a truckload like we did this year. Luckily for us, Moore's on a team-friendly contract for 2 years. right? So we're good there. But I mean, I don't have. That's why. And then of course, once we made the trade, well, now we'd have to pay Young $30 million. So that's another reason I don't see a Young trade happening because we kind of like give the signal that we're jumping the line, we're jumping ahead of plan, and then it kind of in a weird way could put us in a money mine. I'd be much better off with Fields balling out, getting an extension, getting Claypool an extension, and getting another defensive help in the draft, another edge guy in the draft, and O-line guys in the draft, and not on the pressure next year to sign any free agents really. Just keep what I've got, right? My starters that I need to re-sign, and go in the draft and not have to pay Chase Young $30 million of quarterback money basically. Because I'm going to have to pay Claypool. I might have to play Johnson. I might have to pay Fields.
Well, Fields, I think if he has a better year, if he improves every year, if this coming year he improves, I don't think they're going to give him that 5th-year option because all it's doing every year is bringing that bar up for the price of the quarterback. They might just kick it and say, let's sign him now before it gets more expensive next year.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I agree. I think that they won't do the 5th-year
even though it's going to be a high price.
Well, because next year they can do the 5th-year option or sign him long term. I think they'll try to sign him long term versus 5th year for what you're saying, Mike. But okay, what's Daniel Jones getting a year right now?
Give me a second.
45.
I'll pull it up.
Didn't he get like 45 or something like that? Some stupid number.
Justin Jones.
Danny Dimes.
Oh, Daniel.
Danny Dimes? Yeah, like $45 million?
Yeah. And what did Lamar get? He got about the same, a little bit more. I mean, it's not like when Drew Brees re-signed for $20 million. People said, "Oh my God, $20 million doesn't get you your quarterback re-signed anymore. It just doesn't." We're gonna have to spend 40 of the 100 million. Let's say we have 90 million left. About half of that is gonna have to go to Fields. About half.
Danny Dimes is 46.
46.
Yeah. And Lamar is probably right there in that ballpark.
And that's crazy because Danny Dimes only had one good year.
Yeah.
And remember when I was at that game last year and he killed us for 3 touchdowns just rushing. So it's not through like his arm and stuff like that. So Giants, I don't know what the hell they were thinking.
Well, but Lamar is about the same price tag, but I think, I mean, so you're looking at the 90 or so million we got left. Half of that's going to have to go to Fields next year. And then that leaves you about 45 million. Well, okay, you figure between Claypool and Johnson, you'd call that another, and let's say Yannick stays. Well, there's 35 million gone between those 3 guys at least. You see what I'm saying? That money we think we have goes really quick when you have to spend half of it on your quarterback.
So you're saying
it's not really half because Fields is getting what, like $8 million this year on his rookie deal. 7 or 8 million, I think, is what he's at. So really, 45 million is like 35 million of our cap hit. Right?
So you're saying just keep our team this year, maybe signing another edge rusher, and just keeping it the same till next year, and go through either the signings that we're going to do, the re-signings, and go through the draft.
I mean, basically, because right now, let's say we have 90 million left, or 95 million, right? And let's say Fields is going to cost you 45. Okay, so really that 45 is like 35 to 36 of our free, right? Because that 9's already counted against us, right? So let's say we got 90 million. You could spend about 70% of that's what you're going to spend just to keep Fields, Claypool, Yannick, Johnson. Let's say if you're going to keep those 4 guys, right? And then you're going to have some other minor re-signings. But yeah, if you're solid this year, because everyone else is on 3-year deals for the most part, right? Okay, cool. Now I can go out in the draft and get that edge rusher I need, get that offensive lineman I need. In fact, you probably don't even draft a wide receiver. You don't draft a tight end. You don't draft the running back. draft a corner, or you might go with a corner or safety if for depth. But then you're going to draft nothing but O-line, D-line. Like I could see this as a plausible way if this plays out like that, where next year in the draft you see nothing but O-line and D-line players drafted by the Bears.
Yeah, I have a feeling though that Jalen Johnson is up against an extension, but if he doesn't ball out, he's not going to be there next year. He's not going to.
You know who Jalen Johnson's backup is? You're going to love it, Woody.
We can move people around. We can get him a new
move Kendall Vildor, baby.
I think I think if Johnson doesn't have to ball out, he just has to be good. And look, I'd rather him people they got to ball. No, he's just got to be good. And actually, being good for me is better than balling out because I don't have to spend $12 million on him. I can spend $8 million. And the thing is, if he works with the rest of that defense, with that backfield, if they work, if that starting 4 or the 5, the big 5 we can call them actually work, and we can keep them at a relatively good cost, and our linebackers are signed, really, I see the Bears doing nothing more. Like, you still might see a corner being drafted or a safety, so Vildor can really legit hit the streets. But I mean, and Vildor's okay for a play. Well, no, I mean, Woody, let's be fair. Vildor's okay for a play or two, but when he has to play like 8 or 9 straight plays is when he gets burnt, right? He's okay for a play or two, but he doesn't seem to be able to go past the 5th play without getting burnt in a row. So, I mean, he's a decent rotational guy, but I think we could see maybe next year in the draft we get better there. And then everything else is O-line and D-line. If we can keep what we got, I mean, what would be wrong with that?
Sounds good.
So we're all being wishful thinking, hoping these guys are good or balling out.
Or yeah, I mean, and the thing is, I think they just have to be. Look, they don't have to be all studs this year. They just have to be better than last year and be good and show enough where Poles is like, I don't need a receiver. I don't need a running back. My problem is still my O-line depth. My problem is still my D-line depth. And if I fix that, everyone else I got makes us a contender. As long as we're that kind of good, right? Because look at the backfield's going to get burnt if the D-line sucks and can't get to the quarterback. Then yeah, they're going to get burned some because eventually teams are going to break you or break through. And same thing with the offense. If they keep getting to the quarterback, then yeah, we're still going to have some problems. But as long as we've shown improvement over in those areas, then yeah, I think he would go, okay, I just need another right guard or a left tackle or another guy that I can bring in if Tevin gets hurt, or a guy I can bring in if Nate gets hurt, or I need another edge rusher, and I want to keep Yannick, and I'm going to get a sweetheart deal for 3 years at $10 million a year or something like that. I could see that happen. I think that's kind of what his mindset kind of is, because if you look at this team, if we had Detroit's O-line, we'd be crying that we're going to win the Super Bowl this year. Right? If we had the O-line that Detroit had last year, we would all be saying right now we're going to the Super Bowl. Because last year with a shitty O-line, for a large part of the season, we put up top 5 in the league points. Right? And now we got a better offense, we think, weapon-wise. So if we had a Detroit Lions offensive line, we'd all be screaming we're going to the Super Bowl. Would we not?
I wish we had their defensive line too.
That's what I'm saying. That's where our problem still is, O-line and D-line. Everywhere else, we're like all happy campers. And even like, main event, Mike would say this, Russell would say this. Yeah, you guys are good from linebacker back. You're good in your skill position players and offense. It's your trenches that need work on both sides of the ball. I think that would be their biggest attack on us, is our trenches, and I would agree.
Yeah, I'm just saying, if somehow the Bears gel this year and they get, obviously we're going to improve. Even if we get 7-8 wins this year, that's a big improvement from last year. That's just how I take it. But if we get even better, and say if we fight for the division and we're going to be a problem to reckon with next year too. The teams are going to be worried. But this year, the only reason I say that, maybe getting, fighting for the division and stuff like that, our schedule is good to us this year, and that's why I'm saying 7-8 wins. I said they're 7-10, and it's 3 to 7. People might think they're still still under 500. They still suck. Blah blah blah. That's a big improvement from 3 games to 7 wins.
Yeah, and Mike, do you think though, building on what Woody said, do you think we could be setting ourselves up for a 2018 false flag though?
Man, I've been saying we could be possibly the Jags, man. If everything went right, the cards played right, we could literally go from last in the division to first. You know what I mean? Just depends on the Lions. The Lions look good on paper, but can they play?
Still the Lions.
Proven. Yeah, they haven't proven anything. I personally would like to see it. I already had them winning 8-9 games with this Yannick. I believe they could get a 10 tops winning season, but I still think that we're going to get a wild card.
Yeah, Yannick does change the picture for us. I think. I still think we're a fringe playoff team. But with what he said with the schedule, with the way the division is, heck, look at the Vikings last year. Look at last year we lost 7 one-score games, 2 by 1 point. They won 11 one-score games. So the difference last year between 3 wins and 10 wins was very narrow margin. So you could almost even make the argument that we could be a 10-win team or 11-win team, or could win 13. We've seen some of those out there too. The Bears win 13-15. I know we've all seen some of that clickbait out there, but you know what? While it's clickbait, it's also theoretically possible given what the Vikings did last year. So it's going to be interesting. I'm just, when we come back to this here, I think if anything, I don't think any of these 3 guys are guys we sign. I think if Poles spends any more money this year, it's an O-line back, because I think he's more comfortable with his D-line rotation, right? His 2, 3, and 4 on the D-line than he is on the O-line. So I think we spend any money, and I don't think I think if we spend any more money, to be honest, it's going to be that after we go down to the 52-man roster. And we're not going to see many cuts. We've seen a few cuts already, like 1 or 2 in the league, but that's all I think we're going to see with this new cut rule with camp. Like basically, they can keep everyone's at camp now can stay until 52-man day. So teams are going to be cutting. What are we at now? 95-man rosters, right? They're going to be cutting 42 guys or 43 guys. Each team is going to be cutting about 40 guys on one day. And I think that's when we'll see some money be spent for some surprises. Like someone's going to get cut in polls. And because we own the waiver wire as well, I think that's when polls will spend that money. But I know we got something. It's been about an hour. We're getting up on it. So here we got something coming up as promised. We got some. Oops, that's not what I wanted.
I moved it up here. It's actually.
There we go. You moved it way up there. There it is. We got some signed merch here. There's
not that one.
Oh, okay. So we're gonna win some signed merch. We're gonna wrap that now, right, Mike?
Yeah, we're gonna do that now. I'm gonna do it every month, like Ken said. All you got to be is a top follower. You don't even have to be a Bear fan to do it. Technically, my top follower is a Packer fan, to believe it or not. And all you got to do is like my post, come like my page, share my post, anything that you think is relevant. And it's simple as that. And I'll be doing it every 30 days live, more than likely on probably our podcast, more than likely. So how it works is I will share screen a random.org. I'll be doing this every week. Let me see. There she is. All right, let's blow that up full screen. I know it's hard to see the names. My apology. But we have 44 49 members that are qualified for it. And it goes Charles, Oswald, Jerome, Robert. As you see in my post, everybody is on there. Everybody is on the list. So how it works is if we just randomize 2 dice, which the computers do it, and the number dice roll is 6.
Hey, Mike, are we going to make it minimum roll of 6 or 7 this year?
It doesn't matter on this. It's just a free giveaway. I'm good with whatever. It could be 2, 3, but I mean, I like the rule, but it doesn't matter to me. So
all right, we're going 6.
We're going with 6.
Hard 6.
Randomize the list 6 times. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And this is the last one. Congratulations to Joe. Joe Alendnick. I don't know if I pronounced that right. My apologies. But when you see the video, bud, shoot me a PM. And actually, the win. And the winner, Joe, you get an 8x10 signed Hall of Fame, Stan Jones, framed. Stan Jones was a 4-time All-NFL, played in 7 straight Pro Bowls, All-American, and hit the Hall of Fame of College for Maryland in 2000. And also, I'm going to throw in a graded card, Walter Payton, when he ran for 275-yard highlight card, and that's graded at a 9. So congratulations to Joe. PM me, give me your shipping info, and I can get that shipped out right away, bud.
And if you don't answer, it automatically goes to me. So
no, you're late on that, Woody. I already told him my address is the default.
He's actually a top follower every week, so he had like 4 or 5 slots in there. So I'm pretty sure he's a Bear fan. I could be.
Yeah, Woody. I already told Mike my address is the default address for people who don't have addresses.
Well, you got enough stuff in the background there, pal.
But if it does end up happening where they don't message me for the week, I'll try to reach out to them. If you don't give me your address within like a week, we'll do it live on the next show.
Good stuff. Well, congratulations, Joe. Enjoy the signed mem. Like Woody said, I have just a few items in my house, and it's always great when you get some signed mem, be it from one of your favorite players or your favorite teams, and you can put on the wall. It's always a good conversation piece. So
it could be different each month too. It could be a jersey, it could be a signed auto card. It could be maybe a mini helmet. Anything really. Just depends.
Could be lunch with Bill the Packer fan.
No, he's got a.
No, that's a punishment. That's a punishment right there. Well, hey guys, we're up on it. We're at an hour 4. Great show. We've got our next show will be after the first game, which will be. And let me throw this graphic up real quick. There's a preseason schedule. The thing to note on this August 12th, that's a Central Time start. So 1 p.m. Eastern for Woody because he's on that time zone, while the rest of us normal people are Central Time. But that game will be live on NFL Network for all to see. Mike and I will have to talk. We'll see if we're going to maybe run it ourselves like we do some of the regular season games. But then we'll have something to talk about next Sunday. We should have another giveaway, correct, Mike? We're going to have another giveaway. We'll have a preseason game to talk about. Maybe some, hopefully there won't be any injuries, but we should have some more good stuff. We had a lot of good stuff this week with training camp. I think we all have a warm fuzzy with what we're seeing right now, but we also all realize we have some issues in depth to fix. Look, I think right now is a good time to be a Bears fan, better than it was this time last year.
Yes.
The only thing I caution on is this, and I said it earlier, every year we hear, everyone's having such a great camp, and then they went out and won 3 games. So take that for what it is for every team in the league, not just the Bears. Camp is just camp. You're practicing. You're not getting some guy who's trying to kill you yet. It's not, camp is nice, but let's see what happens when the rubber hits the road and the season begins. And we'll get to see some good stuff here in the preseason. And we'll be able to talk about that next year. I'll throw it around the horn for last thoughts. I'll start off with Woody. Any last thoughts today?
Let's go out and prove. I know it's preseason, but let's go out. No injuries this week. Let's go out and, play our hardest on. I know it's, like I said, a preseason game against, Tennessee. Let's go out, get these rookies, maybe a series or two for the starters, see how they gel together. And hopefully no injuries then too. So hopefully, Bears come out with a win in the first preseason game.
Mike?
As you see it, Yannick is finally a Bear. Been waiting for months. And congratulations again to Joe. If you want to come on the podcast, give us your thoughts, you're more than welcome, bud. I'll send you the link. I usually do it in the show. So congratulations again, Joe. And we'll have another free giveaway in about 30 days.
And everyone, don't forget to check out our partners at the main event, 365. We've got the NFC North show on Mondays. Tuesday is – who's Tuesday now, Mike?
Tuesday's the Vikings.
Vikings are on Tuesday with the Valhalla Hour, Valhalla Report, whatever they're calling it.
Valhalla.
Valhalla, yeah. And then we're going to be on Wednesdays. The Packers are still going to be on their Friday nights.
Correct.
So make sure you join in with the network, like all the pages. We all are individual teams, but we're one division, and we're probably the only division that does this where we all kind of support each other. Because during the war weeks we're going to be on all the shows. So please give everyone Halas Hall Report, follows and likes on Facebook, on YouTube. And my final thought is this: Harry Kane's going to be a Bayern Munich starter next year. Woody, I was going to throw that in there. I too am looking forward to seeing some preseason action. I know we're not going to tip our hands, but I like to see more play by starters this preseason. We've seen the years past. I think it's going to be fun just to be able to sit down and watch competitive football again. I hope everyone out there has a great week. Stay dry, keep warm, enjoy those last few days of the summer vacation because the school years are starting. High school football is up and running. So everyone be safe, and we'll see you next Sunday.
Peace.
Bear down.
Peace. Bear down.
He was able to read the defense. He was able to call like little small audible.
His throwing is much improved over the season.
I'm over here in the south side of Chicago, 35th and Damon, doing my veterans tailgate today, baby. This is all about the veterans.
Defensive line's got to get better.
We got a good tight end. That's all you got to do is play to the kid's strength.
Bears 24-21.
Offense looked good.
Glad for everybody to make it. Bear down and hope